Good afternoon, New York. Good afternoon, Minnesota, Minneapolis, Kansas City. I'm trying to remember all the places that join us. Ontario, Canada. Good evening, United Kingdom. Good evening, Israel. Good evening, United Arab Emirates. Good middle of the night, Australia. Thanks for joining us tonight. We are going to be live for 6 persuasion tactics to help you in sales. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. We've come on live early just so that we can make sure everybody gets access, everybody can find us on the various different channels. We're going to be walking through some of the key things you need to understand if you're trying to convince human beings to buy your products and services. We are not rational creatures. We are not objective, we are not analytical, we are emotional creatures, and some of the things that we need to do to generate sales is we have to show people why they need to make a decision to buy from us. So we're going to be looking at that. We've just come on a few minutes early so that we can test the channels. There's been some glitches with LinkedIn events these last few days. So we're just coming live just to make sure all the channels are working, and at some point I'll get a signal from somebody to say we're all working and live on LinkedIn. If you're watching us on one of the channels, please let us know where you're joining from, and I'm just checking the channels here to see who's joining us and from where. And if you're watching us on YouTube or you're watching us on any of the chats, please do let us know where you're joining from. And we'll see you in a few minutes. I can see people are joining from all over. And we're just waiting for the signal to kick in on LinkedIn. And once that kicks in, we will see us there, and we'll just wait for that to kick in here. And we're just waiting for that to drop in. Let us know if you can see us here. And we'll see you in a minute. So you've got a few minutes to grab a notepad and pen. We'll be live. You've got a chance to go to the loo, grab a drink, grab a notepad. And if you're watching this, send us in some of your questions. What are your biggest challenge? What are your biggest frustrations to do with sales? What are the biggest things that are keeping you up at night in terms of getting sales and getting more business? Do let us know what your challenges are so that once we're ready to go in about 2 minutes time, we will be able to say, hey, this is what we need to do and this is how we can do it. So you've got 2 minutes. Let us know in the chat where you're joining from, and we will see you in a few minutes time. Just as a reminder, as people are joining the feed, we will be around and ready to go in about 2 minutes time. We're just literally getting everybody on to the live stream, making sure it's all working, and we'll be there momentarily. So I'm looking on the phone, see who's joining us. There's people joining from all different places. We've got 60 people live, and let's have a look. Here we are. So we're going to just go into a holding slide for a moment, just whilst we check what's going on, make sure all the slide feeds are working, and then we'll be live with you in a couple of minutes. So we are ready. It takes a little while for the feeds to kick in on the different channels. So welcome everybody. I've seen you've had a great little chat in the comments on LinkedIn. So Alexandra from Colorado, Colby from Iowa, Mark from Maple Grove. So you're all joining from all around the US, but also there's some people joining us from the UK, there's some people joining us from India, there's people joining us from UAE and Dubai, Fairhope, Alabama, Johnny is the UK, awesome there. Jackie, I haven't forgot Jackie, by the way. I will get back to you. My inbox on LinkedIn has drowned, but we will do that podcast, Jackie. So that'll be cool. Okay, so let me just set the scene for what we're going to talk about today. So sales and any form of selling, hopefully, Jeff, if you hit the sound button, the sound will kick in. We'll just check. Everybody can hear me, okay? Land of 1,000 Lakes, Minnesota. Hopefully you can hear us and we're kicking in. And I'll just check. Yes, I can hear myself. So we are here, and that's brilliant. So Tom, hello from Minnesota. Ben, hello, Minnesota as well. So sales is not rational. Let's be honest. Sales is not a rational thing. So when we're trying to convince human beings, and this is what we're going to look at tonight. We're going to look at this tonight. And I just want to share some ideas with you before we get into the meat of what we're going to talk about. Human beings are not rational. They're not analytical. They're not logical. We might think that we're very analytical. We might think that we're very objective. But volume we can adjust. The accent we're stuck with. So maybe I'm a little quiet, but we'll try and turn up the volume as well. Let's just dig into this, and hopefully, if the audio glitches continue, we will we'll do a recording and share the recording with you anyway. If you want a copy of tonight's recording, there's an email address on screen, and just drop us an email there, and we will come back to you. So hopefully. All things are running now. I'll just make sure everybody's finding us on YouTube. We're all good. Brilliant. So you need notepads and pen. Notepad and pen. So get ready, because there's going to be a lot of stuff we're going to go through. And why is this important? Yeah. Why is tonight's session more important? I could show you a million things. I did an email today to some of our newsletter folk, and I said, look, I can show you how you can send 500 sales pitches on LinkedIn right now. I can show you how you can grow your connections by 10,000, but it will in 30 days. I can show you all of these tactics, but if you don't nail the principles and the strategy and the understanding behind it, it will all fail. It will all fail. So what we're trying to do tonight is really set the scene to go, guys, ladies, gents, if you're thinking about wanting to sell more, you want to accelerate the sales, you want to pick up the pace and go, it's February, but actually I want to really hit the rest of the year. I want to hit it hard. I want to get results. I want to see this as 2022 being the best year in business. Great. But we've got to pin the strategy down. We've got to understand our customers deeply, because otherwise we will waste a lot of time. So Graham's put in the chat on LinkedIn, if you want a copy of this, tonight, email us. The email address is on the screen. Just email us and say, hi, Maverick, can we get a copy of the video from tonight? We will send it to you. And any references I make to resources, and there's one big resource you really want, and we'll give it you free. It is the one client profile. The one client profile allows you to think, or it challenges you to think from the customer's perspective, from the people you want to convince to give you money in exchange for products and services. It asks you and it challenges you to think from their perspective. Because when you can think from their perspective, you can understand your value and put it in a context where your customer can understand it. The way we see our value and the way our customers see our value is different. And we step out of our world and into the customer's world using the one client profile to help us understand that customer better. And it unlocks a whole lot. But tonight we're going to understand human beings a bit better so that we can position ourselves a little better. So as I said, human beings are not rational. We might think we are, we might convince ourselves we are, but we have biases, we have backgrounds that skew our perceptions. It's just life. I've got them, you've got them, we've all got them. So what we're going to look at is some persuasion tactics that you can deploy in your marketing, in your outreach, in your sales, in your calls, in your emails, that will help you persuade people to talk to you, persuade people to engage with you. And like with anything, these principles are really powerful and they last and they prevail, not because of technology. They prevail because human beings are fundamentally the same in terms of how we think and work as people. So I'll just give you some other context and some strange things that will help you appreciate how people work. So I've worked in a lot of large organizations, and I'll give you two examples. The first example I want to give you before we dive into this is when I was working for a large American organization. I'm based in Plymouth, UK tonight, but I used to work out of Kansas City. But when I worked for a large American organization, we used to send out a lot of marketing letters. So we'd send out marketing letters out to people and encourage them to buy or respond, fill in the forms and put the payments on the forms. So we would encourage people to do that, and then we'd always put three options on the form, three different options for the customer. And we'd always find that the majority of people would pick the middle option. The majority would pick the middle option. 5% would pick the higher option, and so 25% would pick the middle option, roughly, and about 70% would pick the lower option, and 5% would pick the high-end option. And what we discovered is that just a very simple thing like giving people three choices actually encouraged people to spend more. And when we dropped it down to two, we found that more people or less people picked the middle option. So three options, you got the majority, a good chunk of people picking the middle option and a small minority picking the higher option, and the big majority doing that. But when we dropped it down to two options, we found that it shifted even more to the lower value option. Why is that? Why do humans pick in particular ways? Why do humans do things in particular ways? Why are humans make more decisions based out of fear and pain and discomfort than out of opportunity and outcomes and goals? So, and this is really interesting. Think about your own customer base, think about your own business. How many people come to you because they need something, they're in an urgent pain, versus come to you because they have an aspirational desire or goal? What you will find, and this is general rule of thumb, but this is what people will find, is the people who come with an urgent pain are usually more serious buyers. They're the people who are ready to take action, and the people who come with very little pain, very little discomfort, but with a big aspirational goal will probably be the ones that are the most difficult to convert. So it's interesting that we think about this in this way, that actually, whilst we would love some of our customers to buy into us because they're optimistic and looking for an outcome and pursuing aspirations and goals, the reality is the people who take action are the people who are moving away. They're in discomfort and want to move away from something. Why do gyms memberships surge in January and not the summer or before Christmas? Because people want to run away from what they've been eating over Christmas. We run from pain faster than we run to a goal or desire or outcome. Human beings work in a very peculiar way. It would be much better for us to run faster to outcome than, and it would just be better for us. It would just be a much healthier way to live. But let me ask you, how many of you have a list? You have a list of jobs to do that you've put off. How many of you got those lists? Mention it in the chat, right? So in the chat, how many of you have got a list of jobs maybe to do around the home that you've put off, and you've put them off because there's no perceived immediate consequence? Does anybody want to admit that they've put jobs off? I have. I do it all the time. Yeah, we put things off. It's just me and you, Anuj. How many of you put things off? And you've got a list of things and something else comes up that's more urgent, so you just push them down the priority list. But then something happens and one of those things on that list suddenly becomes urgent and you take major action. Yeah, Colby's with me as well. Colby's with me. Yeah, sometimes it's the pain that makes us move. In fact, most of the time, it's the pain that makes us move. In many counseling and coaching environments, and I'll give you some examples. People run away from something fast, but actually, if they don't transition to running to something, they will repeat the same situation over and over and over again, because once they've run so far from the problem, they end up drifting back. So what's good for us as human beings, and sometimes the way we behave, is different. And so tonight's session is really pulling that together and going, let's do this in a really smart way. Let's think about, how do we position our products, our services, our business in light of the fact that most of our customers are going to be irrational, and that the reality is most of our customers are running away from something, and so our messaging needs to speak to that too. So I want to walk you through 6 principles that actually, I can't claim the fame for these. These have been around for a long, long time, but I want to land them tonight. I want to make them accessible to you and how you can apply and use them in your business for the benefit of your business and, importantly, for the benefit of your customers and clients. If you've got value that you can bring to a client, if you've got results and outcomes you can deliver for a client, using these tactics is perfectly legitimate if you can make their world better. If you're using them for your own gain without any value exchange, that's, for me, is immoral. And so, like with anything, these principles, once you understand human beings, once you start to realize how human beings tick, you can actually leverage that for your benefit as long as they benefit too. So we're going to look at this. These principles come from Dr. Robert Cialdini, and he wrote the book Influence, and he discovered 6 principles of persuasion. And these are principles that work in any environment, but they particularly work in marketing and sales because you're helping customers make decisions with this. And like anything, it can be abused, but I'm talking about a good use of these right now. I'm going to explain them and give some examples of how they work in practice. So, not forgetting and not moving on from the fact that human beings are not rational, let's look at the first principle. And this one is one of the most powerful. We teach this principle as part of our accelerator programs and our online courses in social selling because it is so powerful in unlocking conversations and opportunities with prospects. And it's so simple, most people ignore it. It's so simple, people underestimate it. And it is the principle of reciprocity. Reciprocity. So what does that mean? Now, it's real simple. Whenever you do something to help somebody else, they feel obliged to do something back. It's almost like a debt that is created that somebody feels they have to repay. And so reciprocity can work in many different ways. So in our social selling training, which we do, in fact, we've got a course coming up. So if you want to know some details of that, email hello@maverick.com and we'll send them to you. But the principle of reciprocity is if I add value, if I engage, if I do good and positive things with people, they will feel obliged to do it back. So let me give some examples of that. So in our social selling model, where we call it the 7 steps, it's an action plan that helps you go from this person doesn't know you to this person's agreeing to a meeting. One of the key things that you have to do is build up a level of relationship, build up a level of familiarity, a friendliness, a rapport. And so reciprocity works in the fact that if you're on a digital platform, it can be quite tricky to build that rapport through a technology platform. So sometimes what we do is we deliberately do things for good for somebody else that benefits somebody else so that we can enlist their support further down the line. We sow, so we reap. Yeah, very simple explanation here, but the reciprocity principle is just that. So for an example, if you're trying to build your following on a platform, you may have to go and serve other people and help other people so that they will reciprocate and support you. Not everybody will, but it's a way to build a crowd and build an audience. If you're trying to build a relationship with a prospect on social media, you might have to engage them and talk about them and ask questions about them, not posing as a customer, but actually engage with them to get them to feed back to you. So, Kimberly, the very simple version of it, yes, being nice to people means they be nice to you. But in a sales sense, actually liking and commenting on a prospect's post will actually help them reduce the friction out of your future conversations. And it will help them be more considerate to maybe give you 15 or 20 minutes of their time. Not just because you liked one post, but if you do a consistent effort over a period of time, and we do this in the 7 steps, they will be more obliging to hear you out and give a fair audience or give you some more attention. So this is a very simple one to do. And it works in lots of different ways. So things like going the extra mile for a customer can result in you getting more word of mouth. And we know it doesn't matter what technology happens, still the best way to sell, even in the 21st, I nearly said the 22nd century, the 21st century, even in the 21st century, it's people encouraging and telling other people. It's people sharing. One of the reasons we do this webinar and we do this training, is we know full well there's about 900 people registered for tonight. And some of you are watching on LinkedIn, some are on YouTube, some are on Twitter, some are on Facebook, I think. Wherever you're watching this, not all of you are going to be our customers. Yeah? Some of you are going to go away from this training and go, that was great, I've got some good ideas and I'm going to run with them. And that's perfectly good for us because we're practicing the reciprocity. If we can add some value into people, some of those people will go, maybe they can help me. And they'll ask for a call with Graham or something like that, or they'll approach us and say, hey, can you help our business? These are our goals, these are our challenges. How can you help us get to the goals faster and leave that pain behind? So that's really how the reciprocity principle works. Sometimes you have to give to get. Sometimes you have to invest to see a return. But yet, what many want to do in sales is they want to go, I'm not going to invest anything into you unless you tell me you're interested. And how do we see that? We see that in cold DMs. Yep. We see that in our email inbox when people say, hey, I just do this, can we have a call? There's no investment in the relationship. And I shared this again in an email. On our newsletter this week, of some people are looking for clients like this. They want clients who are looking for the value, yeah? So they're not buying on price, yeah? They're looking for the value, the results you can bring. They're not buying on price and they value a long-term relationship. Is that the kind of clients you want? Yeah? So let me just ask that question. Who wants clients who look for value, don't buy on price, and want a long-term relationship? If that's what you want, put yes in the chat wherever you're joining, or comment on LinkedIn. If that's what you want. Clients who look for value, they're not looking for the cheapest way of doing it. They're online marketing. Quillas, I'll give you one in a second. Yes, who wants clients on buy on value, buy for value, not looking for the cheapest price, and want a long-term relationship? That's what we want. Yet, we set up our email automation sequences all the time. Yet, we send template messages all the time. No reciprocity. So somebody asked, can I have a concrete example? If you want to start a conversation with a prospect, there's two ways to do it. This is real simple. If you want to get a conversation with a prospect, real simple way of doing it. Go onto LinkedIn and go and engage with them systematically, engage with their content, engage with their profile without selling for 2 weeks. Send them a connection request, but don't pitch them. Restrain yourself. Yeah, and then engage with them, have some good conversations in the comments, wherever, and then ask them, can you have a conversation with them? Watch the difference. And I've proven this because the cold rate is a 0.4% success rate. 0.4. That's from message, chasing, pestering to a sale. 0.4% success. If you do the reciprocity route, part of the 7 steps, you end up in a position whereby you get up to about 15%. 15%. So I can't even do the maths on that, but it's a lot of improvement. Do you do less? Of course you do less, but you convert more. So instead of putting 1,000 in to get 4 sales, you end up putting 100 in to get 15. But there's more work on each individual prospect. Let me give you another example of this reciprocity from a marketing point of view. I will often do a research piece on a prospect, and I will do a research piece and I will look at their business and see how can I help them? What's the challenges I can see from observing how they're marketing and selling themselves? And I'll do a little report and I'll take 20 minutes or so, or a member of the team will take 20 minutes or so to actually write up a report based on what they've observed with screenshots and all that kind of stuff. Not to criticize, but to give advice and tips on how they can improve. And we send it to them with an email, not template, a personal presentation and a personal email, the conversion rate on that is 25%. But the reality is, most people don't do that stuff because they don't want to spend 20 minutes on one person. And then they wonder why the prospects don't want to spend 20 minutes with them. So it's a real simple process. If you invest in somebody else, they see the investment, they see that you've made an effort, and so they feel obliged to make an effort too. Very, very simple. If you give somebody a good experience, they will give you a good experience. If you delight a customer, they will tell other people. The law of reciprocity works everywhere and in everything. So, real simple. This webinar, I'm doing this webinar free. We're not charging for this. You're joining it. Some of you will get brilliant ideas. You'll go away and go, I've got some ideas. That Maverick lot, they're half decent. That Maverick lot, that's my northernism. The Maverick crowd are half decent. They give me some really good ideas. They'll go away. And at some point you'll go, oh yeah, that Maverick, they're really good people. They're really helpful. They help a lot of people. And so the reciprocity transfers. So it's a very simple principle. A lot of organizations use this to their advantage, and you can use this principle to your advantage too. So the second one in this list here is the one I'm probably the least comfortable with. It's the one I kind of don't like, because it's the one principle that is the most easy to abuse, and it's abused a lot on the internet. So this is the principle of scarcity. And again, if you want to buy a book that explains this in a lot of detail, I'm giving you a kind of a practical application of it. Dr. Robert Cialdini's book, Influence, is brilliant at unpacking this in major detail. But the principle of scarcity is just that. It's creating a deadline or a limited number to inflate the value or the demand for a product or service. So I'll give you some practical applications of how this works, and I'll tell you some applications that I think often are a bit naughty. So when you're on the internet and you see an advert, there will often be a promo to buy something with a countdown price, and saying once this countdown's gone, the thing's over, it goes up in price. Or there's something like that, a countdown. It puts a hard deadline, it puts pressure on you to say, if I don't do it now, it's going to hurt me. If I don't take action now, it's going to hurt me. Now, I don't necessarily think this is always the best one to do, but you also see it at weekends when there's sales on. There's a closing down sale, there's a limited time sale, where you literally impose a demand by constraining supply. That's the easiest way to constrain supply by a particular metric. So, for an example, you might host a course, a live course, and you choose to constrain supply. Now, I would do this one because sometimes, as we've seen tonight, 900 people trying to join this over so many different channels creates technical problems. So if I was getting people to pay for a course, so we're doing one on the 23rd of March, social selling, grow your business with social selling, and win your next client on LinkedIn. If I was trying to put on a course, I've got some technical limitations. So I could choose to upgrade our server or upgrade our gadgets and stuff to do it, but I've chosen not to, and instead limited the number of places. So I think at the moment there's about 23 places left or so. We'll send you some details if you want to join next week. But once they're gone, they're gone. Now that is an element of scarcity, but there's a legitimate reason why you've done it. Sometimes people put scarcity on for the wrong reasons, and it's just a trick to get you to click that button and buy in the moment, rather than sense check and go away and think about it and consider whether it's the right thing to do or the right decision to make. So let me give you some examples of how you can use scarcity in your business. So one of the simplest things you can do, and a lot of major companies selling SaaS products do this, or SaaS services, or selling SaaS, do this, is when they quote a customer, they give them a price for a year's contract at a fixed rate and say, we'll have to rework the quote in 30 days if you haven't signed up. Sometimes sales reps are given incentives to give to customers if they sign up by an end of quarter or end of month. So you give salespeople discretion to offer pricing, not discounted, but offer incentives and maybe an introductory pricing if they close the deal by a particular time. That gives the salesperson a reason to follow up, because they can say, just a reminder, if we don't close this, the price will vary. I don't know whether I can get the same rate for you next month or the same incentives for you next month. That gives the salesperson a reason to follow up other than how are you getting on with it. It gives a hard deadline for the customer to think about, and it means that everybody's focused around a particular goal of getting this deal done by a particular date. That's very common in technology sales, that there would be an introductory deal that is signed up by a particular date. And obviously every year then that business gets into a routine of price changes and price increases at various points in the year so that they can use those price increases as incentives to close business by a particular date. Yeah. So Kimberly, yes, it's a brilliant way to do it. The key thing is build your business model, do it. Don't just some people just make it up by customer. What you do is you go every year, April and October, we increase our prices by 2%, 3%, whatever it is. And so if we close deals before those periods or before whatever periods, we can put incentives in, and you can put incentives in by the end of the quarter or end of the month, whichever you choose, and choose particular incentives for particular quarters or months. It's a very straightforward principle to do. It brings that scarcity factor, but you have to build your business from an integrity point of view. You have to build your business model around that structure. You can't just offer it willy-nilly, because at some point somebody's going, well, hang on a minute, you offered me this deal and you offered this deal. And one of the annoyances of this is that and I've seen this with some subscription services, is that the deal that existing customers have and the deal that new customers have are unfair, because it rewards new people coming on board versus retaining existing clients. So with this model of making sure you build your model from the beginning, where you have a benefit to an existing client and a ratchet to make sure that new clients get an incentive but aren't getting a better deal than people who've been with you for a long period of time, because that would be unfair. So scarcity done well can be used as long as you build that model, but these fake countdowns and stuff like that is just a wrong way to go. Do they work? Of course they do. But what they're doing with a fake countdown is they're trying to get you into a sense of urgency that isn't real, so that you push and go, I've got to do it now, I've got to do it now. And what you'll find is that somebody else has got the same countdown, but actually on a different scale. And that's where it gets a bit dirty and a bit grimy, when you find out that countdown just resets for every person. So scarcity in a business model is good if you build a structure for it and it's valid and it's consistent across the whole business. That's actually perfect and good. So this next one is something, again, I encourage all of our accelerator members and all of our course members to really consider, and this is the principle of authority. So I'll give you a little story, and you can probably hunt this down on TikTok, because a guy has actually documented this and how this works in real life. Because again, human beings, you can use these principles in lots of different ways. So one guy decided to see if he dressed like a construction worker and he carried a ladder around. Where would he get without being challenged by security? So he literally dressed as a construction worker, a high-vis vest, and carried a ladder, and just walked around different places to see whether security guards would challenge him. And he found, yes, Debbie, they do. Scarcity strategies. To do them ethically, you need to think about the model behind it. You can't just put them in arbitrarily because, one, you've got to be consistent with whatever business model you create. And two, you want to make sure it's fair so that you don't have a situation where customers learn of each other's deals and go, we've been scammed. You want a consistent approach to pricing and the way you price and the way you incentivize sign-ups for your services and products. So this guy's wandering around with his ladder, and he walks into train stations, he walks into museums, paid places, public buildings, and very few people challenge him because he was carrying the ladder. So sometimes the way we position ourselves gives people the perception of authority. So you see this a lot in personal branding, and I'm just going to try and do the pose and you can have a giggle at my expense. But you see lots of people doing poses in photos like this, like this, and looking up like this, and they're trying to create the perception of authority. You see people, and this is a reality, why do we have influencers? Why do we have people who garner followers and influence? Because they're elevated, the perception of elevation creates authority. The person who seems more senior, the person who seems more confident, obviously if you put 6 people in a room, the person who seems more confident will probably get the most authority and the most weight in discussions. So how do we use this authority? How do we use this authority to our advantage? Now this is something that might take a little bit more unpacking than we've got time for today, because I've got 20 minutes left to get through 3 more. So one of the big things that people miss, because authority is very much linked to thought leadership, it's very much linked to influencers, it's very much linked to the way we respect people in office or in authority above us. But fundamentally, the way authority works is if you appear or are perceived to be elevated, more knowledgeable, more confident, any of those things elevate your authority. And likewise, if you're a bit more timid and maybe you're uncertain, or maybe you don't want to push yourself on people, you don't come across as confident. So authority is about being decisive. It's about using an active tone. It's about giving concrete answers and clear answers. And you actually help people see you as an authority. One of the biggest ways you can be an authority in a sales environment is literally to help a customer or prospect understand their challenge better. So if you can articulate and help them articulate their problem better, they will perceive that you are the expert because you helped them understand something better. So I'll give you an example. In a sales conversation, if I was talking to a prospect now, and I'll just walk you through this and we'll just role play. So I'll talk to you as if you're a prospect. So I'm going to ask you as a prospect, so you're keen to grow your business, you're keen to get more clients. What do you think's stopping you? And then you give me an answer of what you think's stopping you. And I go, okay. And what have you tried to remove that obstacle? What have you tried to remove that obstacle? Okay. And if you could fast forward 12 months and that problem's gone, what would the world look like for you? So I'm asking questions, I'm getting the prospect to think. Now, do you think other companies have had this same problem, or is it unique to you? Lots of companies have had that problem, or very companies. We're not alone. Okay. So If you could resolve that problem, that blockage in your business in 90 days, how important on a list of your priorities would that be? Would it be right at the top? Would it be in the middle? Or would it be at the bottom? So I'm asking people questions. And then I would reiterate back. So you've said, this is the issue. This is the challenge you're facing. This is the reasons why you think it's happening. These are some of the things you've tried and they haven't worked to get them resolved. You accept that other people might have similar issues, but it's so important that you fix it in the next 90 days. Is that right, what you've said? Yeah, that's it. You've got it exactly. Well, you've just told me. But I've now gained authority and respect because I've understood and mirrored back. I mean, that's simple. By mirroring back to the person and helping ask them questions to draw out their answers, because every time they think about a question and say something, they actually think about it in a different way. Our brains process again. So just talking out stuff can actually help you explain things better. Counseling and coaching 101. But actually when you use that in a sales conversation and you help people understand and almost label their challenge and explain their challenge in a logical process, you immediately gain authority from people, and so they trust you more. And so they're more inclined to do what you ask or believe in what you're proposing. Yeah, Jana, open questions are brilliant, but what you're trying to do is get the person to articulate what they feel is the problem, tell you they've tried things that haven't worked, tell you how important this is, and you could also ask them, so what if this doesn't happen? What if you're like this for another 12 months? How would that affect your business? What would be the consequence of that? And so we're learning about the customer and how we can help them because they're telling us, but the customer is internally reprocessing all this information to go, maybe there's other things I haven't seen. And suddenly what happens is they start to think better because they're telling somebody else in a particular process. And so the benefit of that to you is you now understand their needs, but they now process it better, and so you gain the authority, the respect and the confidence because you've helped them think a little bit clearer. Very, very simple. Just so you're aware, if you'd like to talk through any of these conversations, or you'd like the one client profile which helps you get into the customer's world and transition yourself into the customer's world so you can think clearly about your customers and their needs, we have what we call the one client profile. It's totally free. You can have it, reciprocity. Just email us hello@maverick.com and we will send it to you. It'll be tomorrow when we send it to you, but you can have that, and it's a real good resource. It's a tough resource because it forces you to get out of your own head and think in the customer's world. Therapy, Graham, for some customers. So this is a real great resource you can have, hello@maverick.com. And if you want to chat to either myself or Graham, drop us a line and we'll come on a call with you and walk you through this in a bit more detail and how you can land these principles into your social selling, into your social media, into your email outreach, into your whole sales process. So the next one is the one that we all don't like, but is so true. We all don't like it. We like to think of ourselves in a different way, but it's really true. And this is the consistency principle. So the principle of consistency is we like to do our behavior, we like our behavior to follow what we've already done. So this is why sometimes people know something isn't working, but will keep doing it anyway because they don't want to admit defeat. They don't want to admit or accept that their efforts previously have not delivered. And so the rule of consistency is we have to try and follow through on what we've already said. We have to try and keep doing something. So what does that look like? Well, let me give you an example from cold calling. One of the things that people used to do in cold calling, I don't think they do it as much now, but it happens in internet marketing, it happens everywhere, is that we try to get people to say yes on a phone call. Are you fed up of this? Is this relevant to you? Oh, yeah, that's relevant to me. And the reason being is that in our programming, When we get into a pattern, we like to continue that pattern. That's why habits form. Yeah? When we do something repetitively, it becomes automatic. When we do something for a long period of time, we get muscle memory. So the principle of consistency is simply this. If you can get people to do certain levels of stuff, they will continue doing certain levels of stuff. That's why it's hard for us to break habits. It's hard for us to implement new behaviors. It's hard for us to make a change. Some of you might be watching this and you know that what you're doing in sales isn't working, but tomorrow you're going to keep doing it, or this afternoon you're going to keep doing it. You're going to keep doing the same things you've always done because you're a creature of habit, but also you may be afraid to try something new. Consistency feels comfortable. So consistency is powerful. And in our social media world, using consistency is absolutely essential. So if you can encourage people to consistently see you and consistently engage with you and consistently see your messaging, you will actually help them believe that you are the answer. I mean, literally, we're all watching this. Most of us are in democracy. So we've been through election campaigns and we've seen the slogans that are put out and out and out and out and out. And we've seen, and I'm not going to go into detail, we've seen people put slogans out that aren't necessarily viable, they aren't credible, they aren't truthful, and they put them out and out and out, and people buy into them. Consistent messaging, consistent approaches from your side will help people follow a consistent path, but also when we do things in a consistent behavior, we find it easier to keep going. So you may recall this. It was very common in the UK and some of the US newspapers maybe 30 years ago, but the principle still applies today. So what they used to do in the newspapers, they put coupons. So you'd collect these coupons, and if you collected all the coupons, guess what? You'd get a free holiday, a free book, or something like that for free. Does anybody remember this? Does anybody remember these free coupons that you would get if you bought the newspaper and collect them? Anybody remember the toys that you used to have in cereal boxes? Or the treats that you'd have with the sweets, the little toys that you used to make? Anybody remember these? The coupons in the newspaper, or is it just me? Maybe everybody's young on this and I'm the old one. Why did they used to put the coupons in for a holiday if you collected so many newspapers? Why would they do that? It doesn't seem to make sense because the value of the offer was higher than the papers themselves. And it was this, the newspapers knew, if they could get you into a pattern of buying a paper for long enough, guess what you'd do? You'd keep buying the paper. So consistency really does make a difference. So if you can get people to take action, and let me give you an example. I'll give you an example. On my LinkedIn this week, I shared 5 ways you can get clients in 30 days. 5 ways you can get clients in 30 days. And one of them is called The Challenge. So you can go check it out on my LinkedIn profile. 5 ways you can get clients in the next 30 days. And one of them is called The Challenge. Now, The Challenge is about working with people for free for a period of days, a few days. It might be an hour a day, it might be 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day. But you get people into a pattern of working with you over a few days and deliver value, and you get them to consistently show up. And at the end of the challenge, you make the offer to continue working with them. And because they've been consistent in doing it, lots of people consistently say, yes, I'm going to pay to keep doing this because I'm enjoying it and I've done it. And all you've done is got people into a routine of doing something, even over a short number of days, so they convert into customers simply because you've got them to do something over a number of days. You've created a relationship that's consistent over a number of days and they want to keep it. Real simple. Real simple. So that's consistency. Yeah. So think about, how can I implement consistency both in my behavior but also get my customers and prospects to be consistent in something. Once they've started that pattern, they find it very hard to deviate from it because they don't want to break their own rules. We set our own rules, and so we don't want to break them. So the reason why we say yes, 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 and we're more inclined to say yes is because we don't want to break that pattern. So we're very easy as human beings to fall into patterns of behavior, and it's very hard to get out of them. And the principle of consistency is one of those elements. The penultimate point, and then we've got the big one at the end, is likability or liking. And this is about people do business with people they like, they get on with, and are similar to them. So again, the reciprocity ties in with this, that if you have a rapport with somebody, they're more likely to do business and choose to work with you, even if you're not the star of the show. If you have a relationship with somebody, even if it's a very loose relationship, people will prefer and be biased towards you over and above somebody else. If it's their total choice, there will be a bias if they favour you and like you and can see themselves working with you. So this position of likability is really important. So how does that work for us? Well, in a digital world, we are all on the same level playing field. Yeah. So if me and you are after the same prospect, if we're after the same prospect and we've never met that prospect, we're on a total level playing field. But one of the things we do in our social selling courses and our accelerator program is we teach you that actually you need to change the scales. So you need to rebalance the situation so that you have an advantage over your competitors in that likability phase. So how do we do that? Well, number one, we have to get our faces, our company, our brand, our message in front of people more. The more people see us, consistency, the more people see us, the more familiar they become. I've got some clients who I've never met in person, and they say, I feel, when they came to our first onboarding and we met them for the first time, they said, I feel like I've known you because I've seen you across social media. I've seen you for a few months and I feel like I know you. And we had another option to go with somebody else, but we went with you because we know you, or at least we felt like we know you. This likability is so important. Think about elections, yeah? I know we've got some big midterms coming up in November, and likability will play a huge part in not just who can do the best job, but who do we think, feel like, looks like can do the best job. So likability, we encourage people to go and engage with prospects, have conversation with prospects, interact with prospects as much as they can about anything but business. Pre-pandemic, we would do that, wouldn't we? We'd go and chat with people, we'd network. That is exactly what networking is. It's how do we build a bit of likability so that hopefully we can talk business. That's how it works. We don't walk up into a networking event and go, hey, here's my card, this is what I do, can I give you a quote right now? And the person on the other side, yeah, sure, because I evaluate all quotes evenly and it makes sense logically to have quotes coming in all the time to make sure we're getting best value. That doesn't work like that. Yeah. The reason why it's hard to move an incumbent is because there is an element of relationship and likability that's holding it. The moment the likability between client and supplier is lost, there is an opportunity to dislodge your competitor. So making the time to engage with people in a more social way, social selling, in person, will actually improve your likability. So what's the common ground that you've got? How can you build bridges? You can't do that running robots. You have to do it one-to-one and look at how you can create those conversations between you to make this come together. Now this final one, and I've only got 5 minutes, If there's a relationship, there's influence. Yeah, Graham's brilliant. Final one is called consensus. So consensus is about people following the crowd. Now, why does this work and how does this work in real life? It works a lot in real life. So this is where what we call social proof comes into play. So reviews and testimonials, case studies, all of those things come into play when we're talking about consensus. So if people see other people like them doing this X thing, guess what happens? They feel that that's the way to go too. People tend to follow crowds. I'll give you an example. In hotels, they encourage guests to use their towels more rather than get fresh towels every day. So one particular hotel, and this is a story Dr. Robert Cialdini said or shared, in one particular hotel, they put a stat in the bathrooms to say something like 84% of guests reuse towels twice. And because the stat told them that that's what people were doing, more people decided to start reusing the towels. And so we like to be consistent. We like to follow what other people are doing. So on websites, right, I'll give you an example. There's some services on websites. I don't know whether they're ethical or not, or whether they're real or not. But the services on websites that when you visit a website, it will do pop-ups saying somebody's just bought, somebody's just bought, somebody's just bought, somebody's just bought, to encourage you to keep that you need to buy. So it plays the scarcity model, but it also plays that, look, other people are doing this, and if other people are doing it, you must be doing it. And if you think about online shopping, it says how many's left. If you think about television and TV shopping, we've only got 50 of these left, scarcity, but you start to see them going down and say, other people are buying it, so we must be buying it. So the consensus is about going with the flow. So how does this work for you? Whenever you're putting a proposal out, make sure you share case studies inside the proposal. Share examples of how you've delivered a result. Make sure your Trustpilot reviews and quotes from your Trustpilot reviews are present everywhere so that you help people see that other people have made this choice, and particularly other people who are similar to your proposed or prospective new client. So one other way to think about this as well is when you're writing articles or sales letters or emails, think about sharing stories about people similar to your target audience that you're emailing to that have had these challenges, had these opportunities, and have now become a client and are seeing X, Y, or Z. People don't want to be first. They want to follow the crowd. That's why we have influencers. That's why it's easy. A crowd attracts a crowd. So that's why some people's followings get bigger and bigger and other people's don't, because a crowd attracts a crowd. And if you go onto Instagram, and I'm fighting against this because I'm trying to build an Instagram from scratch in 2022 and only do it with the resources of a solopreneur or small business owner. So what I'm doing is I started from scratch at the beginning on Instagram to build it up. And basically I opened the account in November because I needed 30 days to get the account active properly and all that stuff. And then started kind of early January to generate leads and stuff like that. It takes a long time to build up that following, but it actually gets faster the more you do it because the crowd attracts a crowd. But what there is an underbelly on Instagram whereby I'm not saying do this, so don't do this because it'll ruin your Instagram. But if you buy followers, it's actually easier to acquire real followers. And some people have accepted that this is the reality. If I want a crowd, I have to fake a crowd. I don't like that idea, which means I have to appeal to people who are seeing other people with, at the moment, 10 and 100 times the following of me, and I have to appeal to them even though I might have exactly the same number of real followers. But consensus is people like to follow other people. People don't like to be first. People want to have the reassurance of doing what other people did. So consensus is one of those things that is annoying, but actually when you start to use it where you can, testimonials, dropping things in, it actually unlocks a huge amount. So consensus is a powerful tool. On Instagram, it's working against me a little bit at the moment, but I will fight it and I will work on that and I will build it, but I might have to defy the odds and I might have to use reciprocity to fight consensus. So the fact that what I'm doing, just to tie this back, with my Instagram starting from ground zero, I have to go outbound and engage and build up that level of relationship that people decide to follow me, so that my consensus position actually kicks in. Because at the moment, I can't get a crowd by consensus. I have to build it via reciprocity. So I have to earn my stripes by investing in other people, investing in supporting other accounts, so that I can turn that round and build a consensus around me. So, and that's when the authority comes in, that the perception of having a big crowd elevates you above. And so because you have a big crowd and it elevates, consensus works for you again. And so this is just how the world works. These principles play out not just in business, not just in sales, not just in marketing. They play out in every aspect of life. And one of the things I love teaching, as much as I could probably make more money telling you how to use a robot to do X, Y, or Z, I think the best time is if you understand human beings. Because when you understand human beings, you can unlock sales. And at least for the next 10 or so years, maybe after that it's a different story, human beings are going to be decision makers over money and purchases. Human beings are going to decide. So as long as you understand human beings, you can market and sell pretty much anything, because it's human beings that make the decision. So these are the 6 principles that will help you, or 6 persuasion tactics for sales. They work in other places, and if you unlock these in your business, it will be very powerful. I'll leave you with one more thought, and this is probably for another day, but I want to give it to you just before we finish. And just as a reminder, I'll point there, the email's on the screen. If you need help growing your business, we can train you, we can give you coaching, we can put you on a program that will help you unlock these ideas and implement them together with us. So we implement them together in your business. Drop an email in, myself or Graham will schedule a call with you and go, let's get you into this program. What's your goals? What do you want to achieve? Let's go get them. And that's what we do by unlocking this. But I'll leave you with one more thought, and this will help a lot of you who are imparting expertise. So if you're imparting expertise in your business, or knowledge or insight in any way, shape or form, so you're selling some kind of expertise-led service, coach, consultant, any of those kind of things, this will really help you. You are an expert in your field, and your job is effectively the doctor. And so your job is to help patients understand their problem and give them a course of action that will help them get better. That's what you're there to do. Just remember that. But we live in a world with ever increasing complexity. So the world's getting more complicated. Yeah. It's, you know, there's more social media channels, there's more ways to do it, there's algorithms, there's all sorts of stuff. There's all this stuff getting in the way. It's getting more complicated. So it gets harder for human beings. So the more complicated the world becomes, the more people try to find simpler solutions. So thinking about human behavior again, the key to you unlocking more sales is not about blowing people's minds away with transformational ideas. It's actually about providing the simplest way that they can grab hold of the solution to their issue and their challenge. So if you look at a lot of the people that are doing really well in this economy, really well in this information age and technology age, it's not actually the techies. It's the people who can make things more straightforward. It's the people who can make things happen. It's the people who can bring simplicity. And if you look at the likes of Elon Musk, it's a very complicated business, and actually people who are far more experienced in rockets and electric vehicles and all that stuff couldn't quite do it. It took somebody with no experience to come in and show them a different way of thinking, because sometimes the complexity and the subject matter experts get lost in their own detail. And so they can't adequately see the solution. They can't adequately see it because it's too straightforward. So have a think about that. I don't have time to unpack that fully today. But look, if you need help, if you want the one client profile, you want the replay of tonight's session, drop us an email, hello@maverick.com, and we will send you this replay, and we'll send you the one client profile. And all that leaves me to say is thank you for joining us tonight. Apologies for the technical glitches. LinkedIn's live features playing up horrendously at the moment. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week for another live training session. Go spread the word. Do all of the thumbs up, the likes, the follows. Go find Graham on LinkedIn. Go find me on LinkedIn. Connect with us. Give us your feedback. Say, hey, thank you so much for doing this. Share the love, as I say, and we'll see you next week for another live training session. Thank you for joining us.
Past year, Maverick has helped generate more than 15 million in new business. The biggest reason for this is our 90-day training and implementation platform we call the Accelerator Program, where we teach your team to sell on social media with an implement-as-you-go strategy. It's not a pre-recorded course, it's hands-on sales training that develops and grows with you, with 90 days of real action that generates business and long-term revenue. So who is it for? This program is for entrepreneurs, marketing and sales professionals who want to sell without ads, cold calling or pushy tactics. A better way of selling with real steps to take, which speeds up your sales process without burning any bridges. These are just a few examples of results our members have achieved using the Accelerator. As you can see, the Accelerator isn't about quick wins, it's about building a better sales process. If you'd like to learn more, just book a call with the Maverick team and we'll show you how the Accelerator program can win you new business.